So this video is going to be about limits, which I think is the only thing that I haven't covered yet so far for your search log assignment. So in order to talk about limits, I'm going to look at a couple databases here. The first one, I'm going to go ahead and do a little search for online learning, and we'll do it in the iSearch because iSearch is one of the easiest ways to get to all of our EBSCO databases. So this is pulling up probably the format that you guys are most familiar with whenever we're talking about the different functions of a database. We're also going to take a look at some of the other major databases that IUP has, including JSTOR, Sage, and ProQuest, but I'll get to those in a minute. So what happens whenever I pull up a search for online learning? Many of you have already figured out that there are all kinds of buttons over here on the left-hand side. These are also available if you click on the advanced search. It just changes the picture a little bit. So instead of being along the left-hand side, they are now in the center of the screen for you to choose from. And all of these are available in either screen. You can choose whatever ones you want. So whenever we're talking about limits, what we're doing is limiting the search results according to specific parameters. And this is actually why we covered metadata as the first thing in this class, because limits only work when there is metadata available to limit by. So some of your options here, EBSCO allows you to limit by discipline. And what it's doing then, if I were to say choose only chemistry stuff, what it's going to do is it's going to only give me results from any journals that have been marked as chemistry resources. This is part of the metadata that they have available. For most of this, you guys are going to ignore this search modes and expanders. You should always, this by automatically goes to find all my search terms. You can just leave that alone. That's not actually a limiter. This is just how you're doing your search. If you want, you can change it to Boolean phrase because now you know how to do Boolean searching, which is what we covered earlier in the class. Now, under this section that says limit your results, some of the ones you guys are probably already familiar with is this full text button and the scholarly or peer-reviewed journals button. And there's actually a video this week about what peer review actually means, so take a look at that as well. You can also limit to a published date. This is one that you guys will probably use very frequently in your other classes, in particular whenever you are limited to a specific time frame. Maybe you're only allowed to use journals that are 5 years old or 10 years old. For the most part, whenever you're using this limiter, I just say type in the year, like 2011 to 2016. I almost always just leave the month alone because unless you're looking for a very specific newspaper article, the month usually doesn't matter. You can limit it to certain locations, but for you guys, since most of you are going to be looking at articles and not just books, this is not going to be that helpful. One that will be helpful is any of you who come across a lot of articles in different languages. Academic information is published all over the world, so you will see articles that are in all kinds of languages. If you only read English, feel free to limit to English. If maybe you read a second language, you might want to limit to a second language as well. And you can select more than one by hitting Control. If you don't hit Control, it just lets you select one. You can limit to the type of images that are available. For this class, you probably don't need this. However, for other classes, if you need images for any kind of presentation, or even if you want an image for our debates later in the semester, you might want to limit to something that has a color photograph or some kind of illustration or a diagram. That might be helpful to you. So what happens whenever you select these, let me go back to my search here. They work like toggle switches, and you see this is the stuff that I've checked off before. So I want it to have something that's available in the library collection. And this thing where it says apply equivalent subjects, that's where I checked off the chemistry thing, although that probably wasn't very appropriate to an online learning search. I set a publication date. I set my language as English. Oh, I'm sorry. The chemistry limiter is down here. I'm actually not sure where this one came from. I'll have to look into that. So if you want to change anything, you can do that down here. I can click on language. I can click my English language again. And then I should be able to turn it off from this same search bar. Or I can turn it off right here by clicking this little X. So, oops, I accidentally limited it twice, which is part of the deal whenever you're playing with limiters. So once I turned it off, that changed my search result from 600 to 1,102. So the more limiters you set, the fewer results you're going to get. So this works like adding more keywords with the term and. So if I said online learning and D2L, I would get fewer results. Same thing with limiters. More limiters, fewer results. So let's take a look. The reason I started with EBSCO is because it has so many options for you to choose from. You can choose disciplines, dates, languages. Some of them have even more specific limiters that you can work from. Not every database has this kind of robust metadata to work with. In JSTOR, I'm hoping many of you have seen JSTOR before. In JSTOR, in order to use the limiters, you need to click on the advanced search. And you can do your search bar up here as well, just like before. But you notice there are not nearly as many options to choose from where it says narrow by. I can choose articles, books, pamphlets, reviews, or something called miscellaneous, which, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm a librarian and I don't know what they include in miscellaneous. I would guess maybe like conference proceedings or maybe some kind of other documentation that doesn't fit one of these four. You can enter your years here. Once again, you don't have to put a whole date. You can just put a year. You can choose your languages as well. You can limit by a specific publication. And then you can narrow down by discipline and or journal. So this is very similar to what we saw in the iSearch. Now, another one is the SAGE journals. And the SAGE journals, honestly, I like the SAGE collection because it has so much full text. However, it has terrible limiters. The only thing you can do with this is pick a specific journal. That's what this list is here. These are all names of specific journals you want to search within. Or you can set a date range, and that's about it. There's really not much else you can do with this database in terms of limiters. ProQuest, on the other hand, does have some very similar limiters. They have a lot more publication types, and the one reason that I chose ProQuest to show you, you have your standard full text peer review and then a date limiter. But under document type, in addition to things like books and articles, you can scroll through here and you can choose specific types of articles. So you can choose like a case study. You can choose, where is it? Oops. You can choose a review article, which is something that's covered in the information types, the information pyramid thing. This is essentially a literature review. You can choose sorry, I'm looking for it here. You can just choose article, which will get you all kinds of articles at once. And it's not, I thought it was in here, but it might be just in some of the specific EBSCO databases. Sometimes you can choose other specific types of articles like, oh, my mind is not working this morning. Randomized controlled trials. Some of those really advanced types of articles, randomized controlled trials, meta-analyses, and other types of meta-analyses that are like at the very top of the information pyramid. You can also use the source type. Like this is the document type and the source type. This is talking about the journal or magazine or book that it came from. This is talking about what type of thing it is. So I can choose magazines, books, dissertations if you want, things like that. They also have this option to show you either relevance, oldest first, or newest first. And this is a pretty standard thing as well. However, you'll probably want to leave it on relevance. This is what you guys are most used to seeing. Google uses a relevancy ranking system. EBSCO uses a relevancy ranking system. Most databases use a relevance system now. All right. So when you guys go to do your search log, there is a column that says what limits did you apply. As you're doing your searching, this is something you should play around with in addition to the words you're using. So if I did online learning as my search term, I might observe, you know, there are 20 articles on online learning, but if I click on, let's say, peer-reviewed, oh no, I'm sorry, there were 158,000. And then if I clicked on peer-reviewed, I got 75,000 articles. This is just the first 20 pages. That was my mistake, I'm sorry. 75,000 are what's left after I choose peer-reviewed. So that's one type of way you might employ the limiters. You might choose down here, I only want to see scholarly journals. And this is something the ProQuest does. It allows you to either include or exclude things. Now, if you click include for scholarly journals, it will automatically exclude these other things. So that's one of the reasons that other databases don't do this, because if you're going to use the exclusion option, that would be like if I want everything in this list except trade journals. I don't want trade journals. So instead of clicking include, 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 I could just click exclude trade journals. And so that bumped me down to 72,000 results. So I hope that this has given you an idea of, oh, there's one other thing I want to show you, and that's how this thing is working too, before I move on. I'm going to click on it. Automatically in ProQuest will show you the PDF if it's available. But in the details, this is where the metadata is coming in. So it's allowing me to limit according to the year because it's giving me the year in the publication information. It's going to allow me to limit to a specific publication title by using this publication title limiter. So anything that you see in the details, there should be an available limiter to match one of those lines. So that's how the corresponding look for each article on the other side of those limiting buttons. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, please ask me questions. And I will see how these work for you guys in the search log. All right.